Welcome to the Content and Media Matters podcast. Your hosts today are me, Stara Al-Majoubi, and Abby McMaster, two members of the Content and Media team, and we're delighted to be joined by Tim Pearson, Vice President of Global Product Marketing and Strategic Alliances at NAGRAVISION. So welcome to the show, Tim.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
I've got a small introduction as well for people who may have not, come across Tim in the past. So Tim is the Vice President of Global Product Marketing at NAGRAVISION, alongside being focused on strategic alliances. Here he leads strategy and go-to-market initiatives across streaming security and consumer engagement. With more than 25 years of experience in media, telecoms, and content protection, he's helped shape industry milestones, from actually delivering the world's first live streaming event over a 3G network to driving IPTV innovations as well. His career spans leadership roles at Red Bee Media and NAGRAVISION at the moment, where he's been focused on protecting content, combating piracy, and enabling digital transformation for broadcasters and telcos. And fun fact, Tim is a big outdoor enthusiast, having climbed Kilimanjaro and competed in sailing races across the UK and Greece. So thank you so much for joining us today, Tim. One of the first questions that we always like asking our guests is, how did you get into the streaming and security industry in the very first place?
Well, yeah, that's a really interesting one. I think probably right at the start when I was part of the team that set up 3 in the UK, what we now know as 3. That's where the infamous live streaming event first happened. So I think that was my first introduction to streaming media, and also then all the bits and pieces and all the technologies that go in place as to how to make it all work. And now, of course, I'm busily helping promote our products, solutions, and services to the industry to enable them to do the same thing. We're doing it both securely and also driving engagement. Because since then, the market's got huge. There's so many places these days where you can pick up access to content and enjoy your various different types of content on different platforms and all the rest of it. So, yeah, the streaming industry has gone from something relatively small and brand new to what we see today, which is huge.
Ah, incredible. So we would love to dive into a little bit more about you and your career so far. So we've got a couple of questions just around that before moving on. Firstly, we'd love to know who or what was kind of the biggest influence on your career so far.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I mean, I think a single influence is pretty hard over the duration of your career. So there's been a few folks who will remain nameless, but I've taken various pieces from as I've gone through, both from those early days at 3 through to the present day here at NAGRAVISION. And I think, each of them comes with a particular trait or a particular type of behavior or way of approaching certain things. But also, there was one program manager I worked with years ago who imparted a piece of advice that I always share with others, which is whatever happens, make a decision. Do not procrastinate. Make a decision. If you need to change, then we'll change downstream. And I think it's probably set me in good stead particularly in the dynamic nature of the industry in which we work today, which is, you don't have time to overthink things.
Oh, I love that. That's one that I definitely need to take with me. It's so easy to just fluff about for so long.
Exactly.
Amazing. Okay. And is there, or has there been a certain achievement that you feel most proud of so far in your career?
I think rather than anything functional, I think one of the areas that I'm really proud about is all the people who have either joined teams I've managed or been part of organizations I've been in. And how they've grown their roles within those organizations. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, but sometimes watching people find their niche and then growing in it. I think that's really, if I look back, then those are some of the proudest moments. Of course, there's been key milestones that we've done are various products and various other pieces as well. But I think, it's kind of helping people shape their careers and helping them then start to identify what it is that they want from a career and in which discipline. Because, a lot of folks start in product management, they then discover the very cool world of product marketing and everything that brings, or they may decide to go somewhere else. So I think that's probably how I would come back to that one.
It's brilliant. And from that, obviously you've been a good mentor, fantastic mentor to many people. What do you think it is that allows you to be such a good mentor, or one in general be a good mentor?
I think what you have to do, I mean, there's various sort of, textbooks on this, but my sort of approach is, I think you have to let people have the freedom to A, make their own decisions, but B, also foster their own curiosity, because by fostering their own curiosity, they start to build their own networks. They start to experience the different pieces that they need to bring together for their role. And so sort of perhaps stoically leading from the back to sort of help guide where necessary, but letting people feel like they're getting the success and really sort of navigating how they want to bring that their various pieces of their project work or career to fruition.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That makes so much sense. And focusing more on that kind of thing, so more about the talent and the people. Well, for you, how has your role kind of shifted and changed throughout joining this industry and navigating that?
Yeah, I mean, many of my colleagues find it hard to believe, but I actually started as a coder. That didn't last long, and then I moved into product management, and then into product marketing. And I think it's incumbent on organizations to allow people to have that latitude to change and move roles. And certainly here at NAGRAVISION, then there's been great scope to sort of both grow in a role, expand a role, and also the international component as well, which I think is really rewarding, working with people different places across the globe, different types of problems to solve, and so on and so forth.
Fantastic. And in terms of kind of recruitment, how have you seen that change over the past kind of 20 years or so?
I think if I roll back to when I started applying, certainly I don't have as many ties as perhaps I did at one point. But I think overall the recruitment process has changed. I think we've gone from that very sort of solid, very formal approach where there was lots of sort of psychometric testing and interviews about interviews and so on and so forth. And I think today it's a lot more dynamic, right? I think people understand what it is that both sides are getting out of an interview. And I think that's probably one of the big changes. The interviews now are two-way things. The candidate's interviewing you as much as you're interviewing the candidate. And that's absolutely key to ensure that whoever you hire is going to fit into the gap that you've got in your organization and what you need them to bring on board with you. So I think that's probably the major shift. And I think candidates today are probably a lot sharper about, perhaps what they want out of the equation than perhaps they were several years ago. So, which is all part of that, that conversational approach rather than that slightly more sort of more traditional stiff interview technique.
That makes sense. And would you say that it's, has there been a difference in kind of a change in diversity and having that as more of a focal point, perhaps?
I think so. I mean, I think across the industry as a whole, I mean, we've seen, diversity is a core piece of how we recruit here at NAGRAVISION, and it's a core thing that we're seeing now roll out across, it is very much part of who the industry is and what the industry uses to both judge itself and to grow itself. And personally, I think that the more diverse the organization or your team, then the stronger the team and the organization becomes.
Absolutely. We've been seeing kind of even diversity, even in the sense of kind of having someone from a slightly different industry background and diversifying in that sense as well, has been growing so much recently. Has that been something for you? Is that something that you're kind of opening up to a little bit more, or is that something that you're still kind of within the industry looking for people within?
No, I think that's a really great point. I mean, I think certainly when I recruit, then looking at people that are coming from different industries, different sectors, I never see as a barrier. Right? But you introduce fresh thinking, you introduce fresh new ideas. What's worked in a different industry could work quite nicely in our industry. So, and I think it keeps organizations fresh as well in terms of bringing new skills, new ideas, new visions into complementing what's already in both the industry and the organization. And I think in an industry like ours, it's so diverse as well. I mean, if I look at the types of people we work with here at NAGRAVISION, we're working at one end with sort of movie studios and production houses, and at the other end, we're working with pay TV providers and sort of law enforcement agencies on the anti-piracy side and the streaming security piece. So that sort of breadth and diverse group of people that we're working with, by definition, brings together different types of thinkings and ideas, which can only be a good thing for our industry as a whole.
Yeah, and I really love how I feel like the kind of headline for recruiting is almost like you just have to be dynamic. And I really especially love what you said about interviews now being a two-way street, because for so many people, the cultural piece is, at times one of the most important parts of joining a new company. So by also treating it like an interview kind of reverse side, you make sure that both parties are the right fit for each other, which I love.
No, definitely. Well, it's so important, because then everybody knows, what they're getting involved with, and it. We all spend a lot of time at work. So when we're there, we might as well enjoy it. And we might as well enjoy the people we're working with. So I think that's absolutely key, is to how to realize those opportunities.
Absolutely. And I know that NAGRAVISION as well is part of the Audiovisual Anti-Piracy Alliance, and you've had heavy involvement in supporting the world's largest, operations against audiovisual piracy. So in this episode, what I really love to focus on is, the streaming security side of things as well. And I feel that it's a topic at the moment in the industry. And I feel like with content available from so many platforms today, of course, the streaming era started with one centralized place, whereas now, you get one show on one platform and another on another platform. But what do you see as kind of the biggest maybe positives or negatives for consumers from that standpoint? And how do you think that might relate into the piracy challenge?
Mm-hmm. This is a challenge that we wrangle on a daily basis. I mean, I think for the consumer today, that fragmented industry that you speak about is very much sort of driving driving a lot of that piracy, because effectively people are trying to find the content they want, and sometimes the easiest route is used. Now, of course, the challenge that we have there is that the piracy piece in itself is actually directly impacts the ability to produce new content, license new content, and all the rest of it. And also, I think there's a big piece in consumer awareness to advise consumers that actually what you're doing by using pirate content or pirate services is actually potentially hazardous to yourself as well, in terms of how those sites are collecting information, or how you're paying for that content, and so on and so forth. So a lot of what we're doing is about helping those that invest in and license content really track down where the leaks are in the network. We have solutions like forensic watermarking to help track those leaks, but then also really start to close down a lot of the sort of the leaks and the pieces to hold back piracy. So if you think of the industry at the moment, it's a bit like a leaky dam. You've got a dam holding back the water. You've got all sorts of different leaks coming through that dam. They're all different types and different sizes. So what we're doing is working across the industry to help shut down all those leaks. You can't just stop one leak because the others keep coming. So you need that holistic piece that really helps drive the security of the content that's being distributed, and in turn, the consumer gets a much better experience. Right? They're getting higher quality content. They're getting good quality punditry if it's sports or something like that goes with it. And so the output is to deliver that ultimate consumer experience.
Absolutely. Kind of, we all in the industry, I guess, kind of have to come together and be almost like anti-piracy beavers, from what you mentioned.
Exactly.
And stop the dams.
Exactly. Stop the leaks. But no, I mean, I think as a whole, the industry is coming together. I mean, there's a recent campaign that we've been involved with here at NAGRAVISION to really prevent large-scale piracy, or to stop large-scale piracy in Latin America and other geographies around the globe. And it is a coming together of all those industry pieces that really sort of brings the results, either through people like ourselves bringing intelligence, as in awareness of what's happening where, and the data points and the insights, as well as the technology and the solutions that can directly address piracy and stop it, to protect the valuable investment that the licensees and the content producers are making in that content.
Fantastic. And kind of, I guess, alluding to what you mentioned before about looking at people from different environments, maybe law enforcement, and kind of linking it to now, how do you think that the industry is coming together? So from vendors, regulators to law enforcement, how is that teamwork helping to dismantle piracy in maybe a more coordinated way? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's various coalitions and alliances across our industry. Allianz is one that we're part of, together with some others. And I think that brings together all of those players that you spoke about. And I think we're seeing the industry start to sort of really react and adopt to it we're seeing new regulation coming in place. We've seen new regulation in the US, new regulation in Europe and in the UK. So the role of the regulator has a big piece to play in that pie. But equally, a lot of it is about securing the evidence. It's like fundamentally, piracy is a form of organised crime, and so in order to either deter or disrupt the piracy, then first of all you have to detect it, and that means that you've got to sort of build that evidential file, and that's where all those pieces come together, so that everybody sort of brings their own value to the party, that builds that composite case that can then be used to actively dismantle piracy.
Absolutely. And I guess you've touched on the people side of things a little bit, but is there anything that, I'm not sure, maybe excites you the most about the way that teams within NAGRAVISION are tackling piracy as well?
I think generally in NAGRAVISION, it's the general attitude to sort of make it happen and really sort of leverage our 30 plus years experience in content security, and the wider, streaming and broadcast security pieces, using all of that expertise to help bring together that fight against piracy. And that's right the way across the spectrum, either from the streaming piece, from the production piece, even down to the device piece with what we're doing with working with device manufacturers to put security on the chips of the devices so that the whole ecosystem becomes as secure as possible. And if there are sort of leaks or there are compromise points, then making sure that our technology evolves to address them. I mean, the one thing I can say about piracy is it never stands still. It's a continually dynamic beast, and as a result, the level of innovation that we're known for at NAGRAVISION in terms of continually sort of reacting to those new threats and getting ahead of those threats is a cool piece of what all our teams work together to bring off.
Yeah, and I was just about to ask another question about, that collaboration, but it seems like you've wonderfully sort of answered it already. It's really, there's so much going on behind the scenes, isn't it? Because, you have the law enforcement, but you also have the, semiconductor experts. So it's all like a massive teamwork and fight against that as well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And it will continue to be so as well.
Yeah. And I feel like AI is quite a hot topic, especially at the moment. Do you think that there's a role that you see AI playing in helping the industry either combat piracy or maybe even stay ahead of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of AI, in terms of how we're using it and all the rest of it, AI is very good for managing sort of workload tasks, and it's also very good for helping to spot patterns that may have previously not been seen, and therefore allowing you to get in on something much earlier than perhaps you would have done previously. In terms of AI within the wider security piece, I think there's all sorts of other innovations that we're seeing being driven by AI in terms of, even if we take things to the next level in terms of sort of autonomous vehicles or robotics, all that sort of stuff, then AI is being used extensively there. And because of that, there's a need for some robust security in those devices to address and to make sure that can't be used maliciously as well. So I think we're using AI here at NAGRAVISION across all of our product lines and propositions, really, and both to deal with the problems as we see them today, but also to address those threats that we expect to appear tomorrow as well.
And again, I guess linking very beautifully, but if we think how the industry started with one centralized, hub, and exactly like you mentioned, it's become so much more fragmented. If you look ahead a couple of years, what kind of consumer experience or user experience are you hoping that all these efforts will help to deliver?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we're already starting to see the early days of that. So in terms of, we've sort of seen the content aggregation piece. We're now moving into more of that service aggregation piece. And certainly if I look at like our OpenTV and Terra product line around the streaming platforms and the consumer engagement piece, we're seeing consumers sort of being keen to adopt a multi-service sort of offer within a single app, right? And that means that you bring together subscription bundling, you bring together the apps, you bring together the deep search and all those pieces together into a single app. So ultimately, the consumer gets access to a single place through which they can consume their digital entertainment. Now, because of the fragmented approach that we talked about and all the rest of it, that means that entertainment may appear in different apps with different subscriptions and so on and so forth. But that very nature of that sort of multi-service, multi-bundling approach is something that we're already seeing sort of come to market with OpenTV and Terra, but also how consumers are reacting to it in terms of sort of finding everything in one place, and they can use sort of universal search and things to actually sort of find everything without having to hop in and out of different apps? Or did I watch that on Netflix, or did I see it on Prime, or was it on iPlayer, or whatever? So to address some of those questions.
And again, kind of already have alluded to it, but would love to hear your thoughts on it a little bit more. But when it does come to these, devices or streaming platforms themselves, how important is it to design it with protection in mind from the start, or is it something that is typically applied way after the fact?
No, I mean, it's a very good point. I mean, certainly the work that our Kudelski Labs teams are doing here in Switzerland is very much working with manufacturers to get that device security built in from the start, and then also having enough flexibility so it can be dynamically updated in the field or later, and so on and so forth. So we're seeing a lot more, as we all live in a more and more connected world, than a lot of the pieces, or a lot of the devices, and a lot of the different industries in which we're now connecting with are much more connected. And as a result of which, from the ground up, then they need to have they need to be secure by design. And that extends really all the way from the chip all the way to the cloud. You need that whole piece secure to make sure that there's never any scope for incursions that hasn't been foreseen.
When it comes to security, do you find that cost is then transferred maybe to the consumer themselves, or does it affect anything else in terms of accessibility? So maybe, I don't know, things like 2FA maybe could play a part. What do you think of that?
I think in terms of the cost, then there's an equation to do that says that the cost of security is directly offset by the business value and the insight that it can show. So you can, if you're spotting patterns of sort of security infringement in terms of credential sharing or something else, then you can use that intelligence to then shape the proposition and respond to the market. So, perhaps you come up with a different tier of pricing. You have a level of sensitivity on the pricing to say, well, actually, if we did it at this price, we'd get more subscribers and we can reconvert people back from piracy. So I think that whole security piece is actually, it's less about being sort of cost, but more about being an enabler that's allowing sort of organizations to look at their business and be able to shape their business so that they're mitigating the sort of the effects of piracy, but also maximizing sort of growth and revenue potential as well.
Absolutely. And one thing I'd love to hear a little bit more about is, obviously you mentioned, NAGRAVISION has their own streaming platform, but you also collaboration with Kudelski Security. Can you tell us a little bit more in terms of, NAGRAVISION itself and your own approach to security?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, at a Kudelski group level, then we have you mentioned Kudelski Security. So Kudelski Security is a pure play OTT, a pure play cybersecurity provider. And then within our sort of the rest of the group, we have NAGRAVISION that's looking very much at media and entertainment, some of the pieces we spoke about in terms of both the streaming security aspects around content protection, anti-piracy, forensic watermarking. All of that comes together with the intelligence and the insights that we've spoken about. And then we also have Kudelski Labs, and within Kudelski Labs, those are the guys that have the sort of the ability to design and help device manufacturers build devices and install the security directly into those devices from day one, and then manage it in the field. And that has applications across the whole sort of semiconductor industry, but more vertically in terms of sort of critical infrastructure, space and defense, automotive, as well as media and entertainment, where of course we utilize their skills to help us secure devices against to make sure that content playback is fully secured.
Yeah, and again, it's such a tiered sort of collaboration, isn't it? Because you have all the teams within NAGRAVISION and the wider spectrum as well. So it's just amazing to see how much teamwork it really takes.
It's a team effort. It's a team effort, and I mean, I think that's one of our sort of superpowers in some respects is that at a security level we have the expertise across multiple different areas, different verticals, different disciplines, and so a lot of that sort of core digital security that we sort of bring to the market is based on the collective outputs of all of those teams and all of the experience within them as well.
No, thank you so much, Tim. It was really great to kind of cover this topic with you. And then, we'll come to our final question, which is something that we also always love to ask is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody entering the industry?
Wow, that's no small question.
You have to have just one.
Yeah. I think I would. My piece of advice would be this: be yourself. Point one. Don't try and be somebody else. Be curious, because this industry can take you in many different directions, and your curiosity will be your guide. But then, most of all, be dynamic. This is a crazy industry that is continually changing, and you have to be dynamic. So, be yourself. Be curious. Be dynamic would be my advice.
That was a great headline. I love it. No, thank you so much for your time today, Tim. It was really such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today, and really appreciate all your insights and thoughts as well.
Great stuff. Thanks very much. Thanks for inviting me.